Good day, everyone. We are Group 2 from PSBM1A. I am Raymond John M. Hernando, and my partner is Christian Kirby Viloria, and he will be meeting you later to present the other parts of this discussion. Come and join us, and let's start discussing Acuna Unit 1, Modules 5, 6, and 7. Module 5 Display Text. In Module 5, we will learn more about the difference between an ambiguous from a vague term, recognize the ambiguity of evaluated term, and avoid fallacy of equivocation. Ambiguous means that a term has more than one meaning or many uses. In philosophy, we have a very ambiguous term, namely evaluated term good. When we say an evaluated term, it can mean different things to different people. What you think is good might be different from what others think is good. This is the central concept of moral philosophy. In fact, many philosophers from ancient times to the present use the term good differently according to the language game they are playing. They are exploring the idea of value and how we decide what's valuable or worthwhile in different situations. It's like diving deep into the questions of what makes something good and why we believe it to be so. In Module 5, we will learn more about the different meaning of the term good. First, hedonist. Hedonists are the person who thinks the pursuit of pleasure is the most important thing in the world, so they are most likely regarded as pleasure seekers. For them, good means bodily pleasure. If they satisfy their needs, then that action is considered good. For example, going to SM Clark before you do homeworks. Since going to SM Clark gives you satisfaction and you satisfy yourself by doing so because you like it, then going to SM Clark than doing homeworks is considered a good for a hedonist. Next is humanists. Humanists are the people who believe and stand for building a more humane, compassionate, and democratic society using ethics. They emphasizes the importance of people and their well-being. With this, the word good refers to an action that promotes development to all human potentials. Kaya ang humanist ay para sa tao, kaya ang mga bagay or actions na para sa ikabubuti ng tao ay mako-consider natin ng good. Ang halimbawa nito ay ang pag-volunteer sa mga orphanage, supporting equal rights, and promoting world peace. The next is utilitarian. People who believe that making a decision must lead to greatest overall well-being of most people. Sinasabi dito na ang ikabubuti ng pinakamarami ay ang dapat sundin. So, ang example nito ay ang pagpili ng kung saan kakakain ng mga kaibigan mo. Kunyari, 5 kayo sa magkakaibigan. 3 sa kanila gusto mag-Jollibee and yung 2 sa inyo ay gusto mag-McDo. Since mas gusto ng Jollibee kasi 3 sila, then dapat pupunta kayo sa Jollibee kasi ang sabi dito, the greatest good for the greatest number. Ibig sabihin, ang pagpili sa mas gusto ng nakararami o sa ikabubuti ng nakararami ay ang tamang gawin. So, ang mako-consider na good ay ang pagpili sa ikabubuti ng nakararami. Ganun lang po siya. The next one is Kantian. This is from the idea of Immanuel Kant. People who think what's right or wrong based on the idea of duty and universal principle. For example, police to serve and protect. If you're a police, tapos nakakita ka ng robbery on the spot, and humingi ng tulong sa'yo yung biktima, syempre, bilang isang police, trabaho mo na protektahan ang biktima sa pagkuha o paghuli ng magnanakaw tapos ibalik ang ninakaw sa biktima. So, ang sinasuggest ng kantiyan ay you act in a way that upholds moral obligations and treat others with respect and fairness. So, bali, ang sinasuggest nito ay ang paggawa ng mabuti ay naaayon sa iyong trabaho or sa iyong duty bilang tao. Basically, that's it. Ambiguous terms are terms or words or phrases that have multiple meanings or interpretations within the same language, leading to potential confusion or different understandings. So, sa examples natin, ang term na good ay may iba't ibang kahulugan sa hedonist, humanist, utilitarian, and Kantian. These different meanings may or may not be related to each other, and the intended meaning often requires context to be clear. Ambiguity can arise from a single word or phrase having several distinct senses, making it important to clarify which meaning is intended in a given context to avoid misunderstandings. The next one is vague terms. Vague terms happens when a term is not clear, something went wrong with the intention of the concept, and the set of traits or characteristics that members must have to be included in the extension is not enough to determine what to include and exclude. For example, few, many, some, almost. These terms are vague as we don't know how many items are we talking about. Few people, so ilan. Many things, so ilan. Tapos, may examples pa na tol, gaano katangkad? Mamaya may matangkad na para sa akin, tapos hindi naman pala matangkad para sa'yo. So, in philosophy, vague terms are words or expressions that lack a precise or clear boundary, making it challenging to determine exactly when they apply or when they do not. These terms have fuzzy or context-dependent meanings, and there is no sharp line that separates things that fall under the term from things that do not. Vagueness is often a matter of degree, and the boundaries of vague terms can change depending on the situation or perspective. The imprecision in language can create difficulties in expressing precise ideas or concepts. Difficulty and confusion caused by the use of terms can be traced either by ambiguity or vagueness. So it is important to clarify or make clear of the terms that we are using, making clear the intention of the concept to make it possible to include or exclude members and non-members. So ang sinasabi rito, para tayo ay hindi ma-confuse or magkaroon ng misinterpretation sa mga terms na ginagamit ng ating kausap, nararapat lamang na mag-clarify tayo or magtanong if we are on the same boat, if same ba kayo ng understanding, and if same kayo ng tinatahak na context. So, ayun lang naman siya. And if you fail to clarify or make clear of the terms that we are using, then we will face linguistic confusion. Linguistic confusion is when speaker will use a term in one way, the listener takes it in a different way, and if both are not aware of the shift in uses, the result is linguistic confusion. For example, di kayo nagkaintindihan, di ba? From the word itself, linguistic confusion. Nagkaroon ng kaguluhan or nalito kayo sa paggamit ng mga salita. For example dito, let's meet at 5. Let's meet at 5, magja-jogging tayo. Yung kausap mo, ang akala ng sa ibig sabihin ng 5 is 5 a.m. Tapos ang ibig mo palang sabihin is 5 p.m. in the afternoon. So, dahil hindi kayo tugma ng understanding, nagkakaroon siya ng linguistic confusion. So, linguistic confusion occurs when there is a lack of clarity or precision in the use of language, leading to misunderstandings, misinterpretations of communication. It often arises when words or phrases are ambiguous, vague, or used inconsistently. So we must always remember to apply the cardinal rule to never take part in any verbal dispute unless the disputants are using the same word in the same way. The next one is study of equivocation. It is a type of logical mistake that happens when a word or phrase is used in an argument in two or different ways, but it's treated as if it's the same thing each time. This led to confusion or flawed argument. In this example, I know evolution is true because we see evolution happening all the time. Yung green na highlight na evolution, ang tinutukoy nito ay ang theory of evolution ni Charles Darwin, which is a larger idea of how species change over millions of years through processes like natural selection. And yung evolution naman na naka-yellow highlight is something na observable in a small period of time. So it has different meanings. And to avoid this fallacy, it is important to be clear and consistent in how you use words in an argument. And make sure that when you use a word more than once, you're using it the same meaning each time to maintain a valid and logical argument. So that's it for Module 5. So let's proceed now to Module 6, which is on definitions. In this module, we will learn the different types of definitions. First off, ang pagde-define ng synonyms, ang common na ginagawa natin para i-define ang mga bagay-bagay na hindi natin alam or i-explain ang mga bagay na hindi alam ng ating kapwa ay through using synonyms. We define an unfamiliar word using a familiar word. For example, hala, ang gorgeous mo naman. Hala, ano yung gorgeous? Sabi ng kasama mo. Gorgeous, ano? Pretty, ganon. So, it is the most basic technique to define an unfamiliar word is through giving words that have the same meaning. So, it's like you're giving a circular definition, but in philosophy, this is not accepted as it is considered circular definition or error in definition. Kasi, for example, for scientific terms, you are asked to define amphibians. Hindi mo naman kasi pwedeng sabihin na ang amphibians ay mammals kasi hindi naman sila synonyms. So that's the thought of definition by synonyms. Why is it not acceptable in all cases? So let's move on to the acceptable way to define terms. First off, ostensive definition. When the use of word can easily be specifically specified by giving examples of the members of the extensions, either verbally or by pointing gestures. Example, the term amphibian can be denoted by animals like frogs and lizards. By giving examples of a concept, the curiosity of the person who does not know the meaning of the term would be satisfied. So, ostensive definition is simply giving examples. The next one is intension and extension. Extensions are the members of the concept, and the intensions are the specific set of traits shared by the members. To have a full understanding of the meaning of the concept, you have to state its intention without vagueness and give some typical examples of the members of the extension. For example, amphibian. The extension of the concept is animals that live both in land and water. Knowing the intention, you can now generalize to the other members of the extension, like crocodiles, frogs, salamanders, and anaconda. To have a full understanding and control of the use of the term, you must be able to state in simple, clear, and precise language in the intention of the concept. In this way, you would avoid vagueness. So, by this point, we can now define the term definition. Basically, a definition is complete if you are able to provide a clear statement of the intention and some typical members of its extension. It is a linguistic device that provides an explanation about the term or the use of the term. The use of the term is highlighted in terms of its intention and extension in the context of a language game. All definition must share this common feature.
So let's move on to reportive definition. Reportive definition is synonymous with the term lexical definition in the literature of logic. In terms of lexical definition, it refers to how a word is being actually used. Moreover, reportive definition states the existing meaning of a term. It means to provide information about how a term is being used in the same way in numerous language games. For example, dictionary. It is full of reportive definitions because it states the conventional use of how a term is used by actual people in numerous life situations. Reportive definitions are often identified with dictionary definitions. However, the problem with dictionary definitions is that it can be limited or incomplete, thus the understanding of a hearer may not be satisfied. So, parang pinapakita or ini-state niya na yung mismong purpose talaga ng word, formally and briefly. For the fourth type of definition, stipulative definition. Stipulative definition departs from conventional use. It proposes to use a term in a very unique way in a language game. It declares a meaning when the first time a word or a phrase appears. When a person decides, this is how I'm going to use this word. A definition in which a new or currently existing term is given a new meaning for the purposes of arguments or discussion in a given context. Moreover, a stipulative definition is a type of definition in which a new or currently existing term is given a new specific meaning for the purposes of argument or discussion in a given context. So, to put it in simple terms, it is stipulated by someone, and that is not a standard use. So, for the last type of definition, operational definition. Operational definition was invented by Percy Williams Bridgman. Bridgman advocated that all scientific concepts should be defined in terms of performable operations. This is the technique of anchoring theoretical terms as well as dispositional terms on the plane of observation. There are two types of operational definition. The first type, instrumental operations performed by various devices for observation and measurement like microscope or telescope. The second type is paper and pencil operations, verbal operations, and thought experiments. So, let's think of an example. Let's think of a magnet. Yung object na yun, mapapasok lang siya sa concept or term ng magnetic if and only mag-apply ka ng action in which maglalagay ka ng iron fillings or any metal object and na-observe mo na dumidikit siya sa object na yun. So, to summarize, an operational definition specifies a procedure designed to represent a construct. So, that's all for our definitions. So, let's move on to our last module, display text or analytical definition. So, what are analytical definitions? Analytical definitions focuses on the statements of the intention of a term or a concept that is to be defined. This means a thorough and detailed dissection of a term or idea. Being analytic means that you think things through fully and thoroughly. So there are three categories of analytic definitions. These are definiendum, definiens, and denotata. So firstly, definiendum. Definiendum is the term to be defined. Definiens provides the intention of the defining property of the definiendum. It also consists with two parts, which mas i-discuss natin later on. And lastly, denotata. It provides the typical samples of the members of the extension of the definiendum. So, for examples, definiendum. In this case, the term to be defined natin is bird. And yung definiens natin, ito yung magbibigay ng parang qualities na dinidefine natin, which is bird. So, yung definition natin ng bird is an animal and has feathers. And lastly, denotata. Ito yung part ng member ng definiendum. And example nito are ostrich, pelican, chicken, and etc. So, yung nabanggit ko kanina yung two parts of definiens. These are genus and differentia. Genus is the wider concept of which the definiendum is a member, and differentia, it states the set of its characteristics or functions that distinguishes the definiendum from the other species in the genus. So, to put it simply, genus, ito yung wider concept or wider characteristics ng isang definiendum, and differentia on the other hand, ito yung mas specific. So, let's go back sa example natin kanina. Sa definiens, makikita dito na ang definiens natin is an animal and has feathers. So, yung genus natin is the wider concept. So, titingnan nyo dito. Yung an animal is the wider concept. Thus, it is our genus. And has feathers, the definition has feathers, on the other hand, is our differentia because it specifies a specific trait or a characteristic of our definiendum, which is the bird. So, analytic definitions would tremendously facilitate the technique of stating the intentions of many concepts without vagueness and readily provide some examples of the members of their extensions. So, let us define another example to understand it more clearly. So, epistemology. So, epistemology is a subdiscipline of philosophy dealing with the source, nature, and validity of knowledge. Empiricism and rationalism are the two types of epistemology. So, alam naman natin na ang epistemology, it is the theory of knowledge and it enables us to think about the way we think. So, moving deeper, epistemology. In this analytic definition, you have definiendum, the epistemology. The definiens includes the genus, which are subdiscipline of philosophy, and the differentia, which are source, nature, and validity of knowledge. And lastly, the denotata, rationalism and empiricism. So, medyo parang nakakalito pa talaga siya kasi parang bago talaga sa ear natin yung mga terms na ginagamit dito. Pero later on, mas nagbibigay pa tayo ng simpler terms and concepts para mas maintindihan natin yung term ng analytic definition. So, ito na. Can we use analytic definition for ordinary concepts? The answer is yes, of course. So, dito makikita natin na yung definiendum or yung term to be defined natin is yung chair. And yung definitions natin, which are genus and differentia, are ito. So yung genus or yung wider concept natin is a furniture kasi nga, furniture yung chair, nadidefine yung chair. And differentia or yung specific trait ng chair is for sitting. And lastly, the denotata or the members of the definiendum are rocking chairs, swings, and stools. So, yun yung first example natin. And last example is medyo mas deep yung topic, yung or term, belief. So, yung definiendum or yung term to be defined natin dito is belief. And belief is a mental predisposition, which is the genus. And to accept something to be true or false, good or bad, and right and wrong. This is the differential kasi mas specific siya. And the denotata are belief in God, Buddha, belief in this golden rule, as well as belief in the regularity of nature. These are the examples of extensions of the term. So, ganun lang yung analytic definition natin. Nagkakonsist siya ng tatlong categories, and yung categories na yun are definiendum, which is the term to be defined. Definiens provides the intention or the defining property of the definiendum. And yung definiens may dalawang parts, which are genus and differentia. Genus is the wider concept, and differentia is the set of specific traits of the concept. And lastly, the denotati. The denotata. It provides the typical samples of the members of the extension of the definiendum. So that's all for the analytic definition, and let's move on to the common errors in definition. So there are many things that would go wrong in composing a definition, in providing analytical definitions, or giving any definition in general. Kailangan na maging mausisa tayo sa words, because if not, pwedeng ma-misunderstand ng receiver natin yung point na gusto natin ibigay, and their want for that understanding of that knowledge may not be satisfied. So, balik tayo dun sa concept ng birds. If you look closely, may isip mo na broad yung definition, because the differential that flies will include butterflies or bats, in which hindi naman birds, di ba? The differential that lays eggs, platypus and crocodiles, as well as turtles, also lay eggs, and they are not birds. And that also goes with the differential that sings or talks. Humans can also do that. That is one of the common errors in composing definition. If masyadong broad yung magbibigay nating information or characteristics ng isang concept, hindi na ito papasok sa pagbibigay ng analytical definition, and it won't also be effective in making your readers, listeners, or hearers understand what you are defining. Stating those, let us move on to our last topic. So, we have five rules in composing a definition. So, rule number one, it should not be too broad to include non-members or too narrow to exclude genuine members. A sound definition states a trait, characteristic, or even functions that members must possess. Parang yung in-state lang natin kanina sa common errors in composing definition. So, let us make sure na hindi masyadong broad or too narrow yung kinoconstruct nating definition para mas maintindihan ng mga tao na gusto nating i-inform or turuan. So, rule number two, definitions must not be circular. A type of definition that uses the term being defined as part of the description or assume that the term being described are already known. Hindi dapat paikot-ikot yung pag-explain, kasi pag ganun, parang nililito mo lang yung listeners yun. So, yun yung gusto sabihin ng rule number 2 na to, which is definitions must not be circular. Rule number 3, a sound definition must not be stated in the negative when it can be stated in the affirmative. So, we can associate this one with sensitivity. When we define people with special needs, you do not say things like special child and such anymore. We can say other things like individuals who require special assistance. So, hindi natin gumamit ng parang vulgar words para mag-define ng isang concept, kasi pwedeng maka-offend to or parang condescending siya sa ibang tao. So, that's rule number 3. Okay. Rule number 4. Sound definition should not use figurative, obscure, and metaphorical language. Here, kung magde-define tayo, let's not use words that are metaphoric or flowery, because that would only lead to more need to clarify. And lastly, rule number 5. Sorry, typo lang dito. Pero rule number 5 yan. Avoid defining by synonyms or by ostensive definitions. These are incomplete. The rule is, do not define the obscure by means of the obscure. Use your words that your hearers understand or that can be made intelligible to them. Let your hearers know what you are talking about. Make it impossible for them to misunderstand you. So, those are the 5 rules in composing a definition. And I'm just gonna share this quote na galing sa book kung saan pinag-base yung presentation na ito. Let your hearers know what you are talking about. Make it impossible for them to misunderstand you. So, that's it for our presentation, and ito yung mga citations or references na nagamit namin. Most of the information that we use came from the Unit 1 Analysis of Concepts. So, that's all for our presentation. Thank you so much for listening.